maybe those who have just joined, I want to say our presenter today will be speaking to us all the way from Uganda. She is a resident of Uganda. She can speak Swahili as well. She can speak English. Those are the two languages that she can speak. But even other languages, she's able to speak. She has been a psychologist for over 20 years with more experience than ever before. She will not be talking actually from without, but from within as a psychologist who has been working with different people, children as well, mothers, marriage couples. She has just been talking a lot. She is just an exceptional. She has done a lot. She has an experience in crisis and stress management in conflict zones, coping with constant insecurity. She has also she has an experience in trauma management, grief, counseling, child counseling, and counseling supervision. Our mother is married. Like right now, I can say for more than 30 years, 32 years in marriage. She is just exceptional. She's a great blessing. And I believe, dear parents, this is the best time that we can share the link for other parents to learn more from the experience that our mother she has been having with other children and parents. Right? Others will join us. Allow me to say, Mommy, the platform is now yours. You can take it up. Thank you.
I am very happy to be here this evening, and I like a small crowd because then we can discuss a few things together. This evening, I am not talking about special needs children. I am talking about disorders that occur in the children that even you probably have, and nobody ever diagnosed you with it, but you have grown and lived. There are those ones which we know, things that are out of order, but we have explained away, or we have learned to live with them in children. Many children have suffered at the hands of caregivers because nobody understood that this could probably be a caregiver, a disorder in the child. How do you as a parent cope? Yeah, the coping mechanism is not for the child. It is for you, the parent, because once you understand that there is a disorder in this child, then you need to understand how to go around it so that your child can get to the maximum. Their best can be brought out. Most times parents have not brought out their best in their children because they have not understood that their children could be actually handling, they could actually be handling some disorders in life. How many of you are very poor mathematicians, for example? I would like to see it in the chat box and see if somebody was here who really struggled with math. Okay. Coordinator, you will be there. Let us see if there are people who went through all these things. And they were beaten every day for not passing maths. Probably you had, what can we call it? A disorder in mathematics, and nobody up to date knows about it. I would like to start by explaining the disorders and maybe allowing you to look around at your child and see whether your child is dealing with a disorder and you really don't understand. A disorder can be actually a special need. Actually, it can be classified as a special need, but most of the time you live with it. So let's begin with the ones that you know. The neurological disorders, those ones which deal with the mind and how the mind facilitates the functions of the human being generally. So some children are born with epilepsy, okay? And epilepsy brings in a lot of seizures. But if you're a medical person, you know that seizures can be brought by many other things, including high fever. Then there is that accident that takes place at at birth, the cerebral palsy, those ones affect the way a child moves. They can move with some gait. You think they're bouncing. Some of them cannot be quick in what they are doing. And some are mild, while others are very severe, where a child, even looking around, can be difficult. So the brain does not send the right messages at the right speed to the action of the child. Now, then, of course, there is these chronic illnesses that come due to the genetic reasons, or sometimes it is things that happen to them during their childhood or developmental cycle within the uterus. Things like asthma, things like diabetes, they are disorders because they affect the emotional and physical well-being of a child. Let's imagine that a child is asthmatic. So when they are going to school, you give them a lot of don'ts, a lot of do's, so they don't live normally like another child. So they are out of order of the normal child. Diabetes, they are not eating what the other kids can eat. They cannot do certain things. They are not allowed to overplay in case they hurt themselves, and they have wounds that can't heal quickly. So these are neurological disorders. They interfere with some of the brain functions that they can have. So usually when you have such a child, they have special needs, yes. They have a disorder because their brain functioning and sending of messages to and fro the functioning of the child is interfered with. Then we have the emotional and behavioral disorders. I'll call them behavioral disorders because some children behave in ways that we just think they are bad children, or they were born with a genetic curse or something. But actually, you'll find that it is a disorder. Let's have, for example, the anxiety disorders. Do you have that child who, when you are leaving home, they are so scared until when you come back? They're kind of sticky, too much sticky. You can't move. You have this baby who, even when you turn a corner, they are screaming until you come back. They fear to go to school. They fear to be left alone. The moment they are being separated, it becomes a big issue. Now, some anxiety disorder is normal when the children are younger than 4 years, but after that, they are supposed to be to regulate themselves and know when mommy says she's going to come back and bring me a sweet, they keep quiet. But if you see they become more and more anxious or sad, or they are really triggered, they become abnormally sad, they cry continuously, that is an anxiety disorder in the making, and it's good to have a look at it so that if the kids grow, they can be left. Then we have these other ones who have what we call the social anxiety. There's generalized anxiety, they fear everything. Then there are these other ones who you can't put in a crowd. They cannot stay with other people. The moment you put them with people, they are so difficult to manage. Some social anxiety is normal for a child going to school for the first time. But if every time they are put in a group of other children, they cannot quickly acclimatize, they want to be alone, they want to all that, then you know that there's an amount of anxiety that is happening. I'm sure that some of your children show this, then you say, oh, that is how they are. But no one has ever taken time to think that this is actually a disorder. Do you have those children who never seem to follow instructions, who never seem to be obedient? The moment you tell them to do something, they do the opposite. And when you put them with authority figures, they thrive in being disobedient to those authority figures, be it the Sabbath school teacher, be it the teacher, be it the maid. These are kids that are bent on breaking every rule that you have given. Have you ever thought that it is not anything bad that you have done? These kids have got a disorder, and it's called the opposition defiance disorder. You have beaten them, you have prayed, you have cast out, and you wonder what on earth is happening to this child who is bent on breaking everything you say they shouldn't break. This is probably an opposition defiant disordered child. Together with that goes with the conduct disorder, which also includes repeated violation of social norms or rules, including beating other children, destroying property, burning. There are children who love setting fires on. I have seen a child who decided to light a matchbox and then burn the little brother's hair, things like that. It could be conduct disorder. They just, whenever they pick things, it's like they are born with a demon, but it is a brain thing. It is a mental thing that might graduate into something else when they are grown up. But they have a conduct disorder. Then again, these emotional behavioral disorders, there are these other children who are usually sad. Nothing seems to make them happy. And if they are happy, it is for a very short time. Then they go back. I am sad. I don't want. People are bad. Everyone is bad at me. Persistent sadness and withdrawal from other children. They cannot do what others do. And usually they eat alone. Sometimes they eat a lot, they sleep a lot, or they don't sleep at all. So that these ones have got a lot of depression. And then you have the OCD. I hear people making fun of OCD, but it is a very serious disorder where a child hears somebody saying, do this, do that. Being a counselor and a child counselor, I have encountered many children with OCD, and the parents think, oh, it is something wrong. But the truth is, you'll hear them saying they want to do one thing over and over and over again. If they want to touch, there's one I encountered who would not, for example, brush his shoe without brushing it 4 times. If they don't do it 4 times, they don't feel satisfied. They are closing the door, they close, open, close again. And they can do that 3, 4, 5 times in the night. That shows that they have obsessive compulsive disorder. So obsessive compulsive disorder is not something nice that people usually say, I have OCD. OCD is the failure of the brain to control normal activities so that they are done once and done with. So if it is organizing, they want to organize the whole day. If it is washing, they want to wash over and over one thing. And if it is cleaning, they want to clean a particular space over and over, not just to clean and move on. So some children, you find them playing, if it is a ball, they want to bang it many, many, many times without stopping. I had one who was cycling around the house almost the whole day. They just come in, eat, and they just want to do the bicycle run around and around and around the house. And the parent would say, stop, you come in. And they're still running around on their bicycle over the house. And the parents were laughing it out, saying, oh, this boy loves cycling around the house. Until one person said, no, please see a therapist. This child has something that is wrong. From school, he just comes and he wants to cycle and cycle and cycle. That could be a disorder. Then we have the behavior dysregulation, whereby kids have like temper tantrums. They cannot regulate their behavior. Let's say they want something and they are not getting it. So in toddlers, it's very normal. They will throw themselves down, they will cry so much. But when by 5 years of age, a child is not being able to regulate their tantrums. They are breaking things. They are throwing things at people. They are banging themselves. Then you know they are not able to regulate their behavior, and there is a disorder in the making. Let us look at it. What is it? Of course, there is also this one of aggression. Children have got a lot of aggression. They break things, they kill pets, okay? They fight all the time. They are into fight. And all the opposition defiant disorder goes along with this. Even conduct disorder goes along with aggression. So if your child is aggressive, do not look at it as a child thing. Observe and see how often it is taking place, how much the child is going into trouble because they are breaking something, they are beating their friends, the animals around them are suffering. They see the best way to punish their friends is to spoil their things. If it occurs once in a while, that's okay. But if it's occurring 2-3 times a week, then it is something that a parent should be able to raise their eyebrows and say, oh, I am dealing with something worse than just a temper tantrum, worse than just a child behavior. I saw a child that was because the classmate had broken his pencil. He went home, sharpened a knife, and came to school wanting to knife the friend, and really angry that his pencil had been broken. And this is something he took time to plan on how he was going to do it until other children saw him. This is a 10-year-old, until other children said he's carrying a knife. And when they tried to get that knife, he was so violent. So until someone says, oh, take him to counseling. And when we checked many other issues, we found he actually had a behavior dysregulation since he was a child. He's one child, if you didn't give him food, he would cry, break the plate, pour the food, and even cry more. That is aggression, and it is a behavior dysregulation disorder. We also have children who have eating and feeding disorders. In short, they have a very poor relationship with food. Overeating, okay, is also a poor relationship with food. So some of them are avoidant, okay? They have very restrictive food intake disorder, that's what we call it. They are extremely picky and thin because they are not getting enough into their system. If it is a tomato, they want to eat a certain part of the tomato and not everything. Okay, when you give them food, they look for the food they want to eat. Sometimes they want to chew and they can't chew it. Some children even throw up when they are eating. So if you have a child who can only eat one thing and you are struggling, maybe it is time we start looking at whether they have an eating disorder. Now, for older children, these days it starts as early as 10, and adolescents, okay? It's the younger children, it is not so much. There is what we call anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. Both have got to do with eating. Anorexia is where a child has a love-hate relationship with food. In anorexia, they are afraid of eating because of the messages that have been sent to them. So if they eat a spoonful of food, they want to feel full, and they look at their body and think they are fat. If they ever ate enough, they will find a way of throwing it out of their system so that they don't do what? They don't eat. They look at their body, and any food that goes in for them, they are scared that it's going to make them big. If you see pictures of people who are anorexic, even their heart is small because they have been told that eating is going to make them fat. So they have developed this poor relationship with food to the level they eat, let's call eat to live, but even they eat to die. That's what I would say. Then the bulimics have a good appetite. They eat very well, but because they feel guilty, they find ways in which the food will not enter their system and make them fat, in quotes. So they will usually eat and purge. They binge eat. They can go hungry and then they eat a lot. And once they eat, they are back in the bathroom throwing up so that the food does not make them grow fat at all. So these are disorders. So check your 10, your 12, your 14-year-olds, whether they have a good relationship with food or a poor relationship with food, because it develops into a disorder. So eating disorders are not necessarily born with the child, they are developed. Then this is another one, the developmental disorders. Developmental disorders come because the child has been born with it. And there is almost, with the others, you can do something a little, but with the developmental disorders, they have been born with it, and they have to live with it because they are not developing like other children. So the first and very common one these days, I don't know where it is coming from, is the autism spectrum disorder. There used to be another one they used to call Asperger, but the new diagnosis criteria does not pronounce it so much. They put it in the autism spectrum disorder. When you talk about spectrum, it means that it comes sometimes severely, sometimes mildly. So you can be on the autism spectrum disorder and nobody ever realizes. And you can be on the spectrum and you are very obviously in that spectrum disorder. So autism affects communication, whereby there is slow development of speech. Children might not speak until they are 5, until they are after 3. They speak after 3, or even until they are 7. Then it also affects the social interaction. These children seem to be obsessed with themselves. They don't make friends with people. They get obsessed with certain things in their life. It could be the TV, it could be the ball, it could be one friend who they follow around and they do things with, or a certain sound, okay? So the symptoms will vary depending on how severe the disorder is. So this is common, very common these days. And the children develop very well. You will not notice it by looking at them. You will notice it by the behavior they have. They are sensitive to noise, sensitive to even labels of clothes. They are sensitive to some food. Some of them are sensitive to some food. No one up to date has been able to say this is what causes it, but there is also a pointer to the fact that there is a genetic angle to it, whereby in the family where there is an autistic child, you will find another family that is related with an autistic child. So the autism spectrum disorder is whereby this child is not going to have the same normal interactions with the fellow children, but they can do very well in many things, though they are averse to other things. What they don't like, they don't like. What they like, they will do it and do it excellently. Now this one, the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, okay? ADHD. The DSM-5 diagnosis criteria does not put the HD, but the DSM-4 puts the H. So this is inattention. Being a therapist with children, I'm diagnosing very many people with ADHD, including adults. Are you the adult that can't keep relationships, that can't keep a job, that feel like you have to be on the go? You have good ideas, but you start and you stop, you start, you stop. You know, you are very can I say, spontaneous in picking up ideas and running with them, but never completing them. Now, when a child has got this disorder, they are actually brilliant because they sound very curious, but they cannot sit still. Are you finding your child just can't sit still? They are running. It's like they have a battery that runs with them. They climb, they run, they talk fast, they have ideas and reasons, they look brilliant. And whenever, if they could be the first ones to volunteer on things that they don't even know, but they have a very little memory and a very little attention span. Sometimes you even have them in class. They are very good in the things they understand, but they cannot keep in one thing. So they're very impulsive in what they do. If your child by the age of 7 is not slowing down, and they are always on the go, they talk, they have 1,000 friends, they have everything. These children might have an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and they need to be empathized with rather than punished or rather than made to sit alone. Even when you make them sit alone, they'll find something to do. So check around. Many people are born with this. I would say about 50% of all human beings, some of them have this attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Then we have also the speech and language disorders, those ones of delays in speaking, delays in understanding language, delays in producing speech sounds like stuttering. You know, some children stutter a lot, and sometimes some of them have a problem pronouncing certain letters. You find that they cannot bring out their speech very well. So even when they are speaking your language, they have words which they only know the meaning. So they will tell you, oh, I want a teflon. And you are asking, what is that Teflon? And they say, Teflon, you don't know the Teflon. And yet they are talking about telephone, you know? So that could be a speech and language disorder. It happens a lot in childhood. Later on, as people grow, they learn to regulate themselves, but that doesn't mean that it is not there in the background. It is there. So, and then some people cannot learn another language. They speak only one language. Well, I speak 5 languages, but officially I do English and Swahili as the official languages. So it's very important that you understand your child as they begin to talk. Are they more, rather than being what we call dumb and deaf, mute, there is also a speech and language disorder. The other one is not a developmental. That one is caused by many other things. So it doesn't occur within the development time. When someone hasn't been born with hearing and with sight and all that, that's a special need and a special case. Another developmental disorder is the learning disorder. This one, parents, I would love you to listen to that, where it includes dyslexia. Dyslexia is where a child is not able to read. You will do all the tuitions, you will do everything, but their reading abilities are very, very low. That is a learning disorder. Then I will further explain about this learning disorder. They understand everything in their head most of the time. Dyslexic people understand. When you ask them questions verbally, they will answer very well, but ask them to write, it's only them that understand what they have written. Then you know that this person probably has a reading disorder. Now, there are other signs that come up which will show you that your child probably will have a reading disorder. The failure to know left from right. Are you one of those people, they ask you, what is your right? And you have to stop and think about what is your left and what is your right. You also notice that they are 8, they are 9, but they are still putting clothes inside out. You notice that they wear the right shoe on the left leg. that is normal for 3 and 4 and 5-year-old, but it is not normal for 7 and 8 and 9-year-old. Now, what happens is that people laugh at them when an 8-year-old has put on their sweater inside out. They ask, you stupid girl, you stupid boy, why are you dressing like that? No, they have a learning this, they have dyslexia, and it is being shown in the way they do things. Children who might have dyslexia will also be difficult to potty train. So all those are things that you note as the child is developing, and later on you discover that when it's time to read, it becomes also a little difficult. The same dyslexic people, some people develop dyscalculia, which means they cannot do math. It becomes very difficult even to add 5 plus 5. The times table becomes even more difficult. So dyscalculia is a dyslexic arm there are many arms of dyslexia. So it is a dyslexia arm. Then there is graphia, their handwriting. You remember those teachers who beat children because they had bad handwriting and still it never helped? Yes, those children had a handwriting problem, and it's called dysgraphia. It's also another arm of dyslexia, as we could say it. Then dyslexia also has to go with information processing. A dyslexic child looks like they are either rude or they don't want to obey orders. You tell them, stand up. They look at you and take more than the seconds that they are supposed to stand up. And you are forced to push them, stand up. When you speak the second time, then it's like that's when they have picked the answer. They have picked the cue to do something. Meaning, most of us have got a straight line of information processing. I would call it straight, just like that. But for a dyslexic child, their line is a bit bent like that. So what happens is that their information will take a longer time to get to where it is. So imagine this child in a class where a teacher is saying 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 2 equals 3. And while the teacher is still the other kids are processing 2 plus 2, for them, they are still behind processing 1 plus 1. So they will miss out and maybe jump to 3 plus 3. And their learning becomes very slow. So it's very key that as a parent, you observe your child and see whether they have this learning disorder so that you can have proper interventions. Okay? And then, of course, you have trauma and stress-related disorders. Whenever you let your child experience or witness traumatic events, including violent movies, including you shouting and fighting in the presence of your children, including letting them go to places where they witness violence, or you expose them to violence, the way you punish them and all that. Whenever a child has that, they develop post-traumatic disorder. They are extremely fearful, they don't sleep well, they are hypervigilant, always looking around, they lie a lot. All that is trauma and stress-related issues. And they also have reactive attachment disorder, whereby they don't form healthy attachments because of early neglect or abuse. I am dealing with adults who cannot forge relationships. Why? Because they remember how, for example, their mother was treated, or how their mother was treating their father, or how their father was treating their mother. So that early abuse, and if it was a bad abuse, has interfered with how they make relationships. So you will find children in school who have a reactive attachment disorder. They make friends because they can exploit. They make friends and mistreat other children, or they allow other children to mistreat them. that is a disorder because they are working in relation to issues that were not resolved in their family. Do you have this child who gives away everything you have given them? And they are saying, well, we were told to be kind to one another, but they cannot even eat because they are giving everything to their children, to other children. These children have got reactive attachment disorder. So those are some of the disorders that happen. So you as a parent, once you have discovered that your child has got some amount of disorder in them, what do you do? The first thing that you must do is to understand and accept the diagnosis. Okay? If they tell you that your child has autism, your child has attention deficit disorder, your child is dyslexic, those are the most common that they have. What do you do? One of the first things that you must do is educate yourself. Learn about this disorder, the symptoms, the causes, the treatment, and what other options you have, okay? Because once you are educated about it, the fear of how to handle this child goes a notch lower than what it is. Because the most scary thing for a parent is when they are told that their child has a disorder. But I have discovered now that some parents have grown up with disorders and they are like, oh, that's why I do things like this, you know? So, and then accept your feelings. You will feel sad, you feel guilty, you will get scared, you will be even going into denial. No, 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 no. My child is just normal. They will be okay. It is just conduct. It will be okay. You acknowledge your emotions without judgment. It is okay. Feel the way you want to feel, but remember, you have understood and accepted the what? The diagnosis. Then don't blame. You know, most disorders are not caused by anything you did or something you didn't do as a parent. They come because of things that, mistakes that happen at conception and within the carrying of the child. Don't blame any of the parents. The worst thing you can do is say this one is like your uncle, your cousin. No, it's in your family. The disorder has come to roost. It is in your home. So if you blame those other people that may have caused it, maybe they have gone and they cannot give you a solution. So avoid blaming or pointing fingers as to what has brought it or not, because you don't know how much you could have happened to you. Yeah. So avoid blaming people. All right. Another thing you could do is to be your child's advocate. Once you have understood the diagnosis, treat your child right. Don't join the crowd in mistreating your child. Why do I say this? Sometimes the teachers say your child is stubborn. There's bad children. And you go to school and beat the child, or you get home and beat the child. You should be more empathic. Treat your child well. They say use a cane. That is okay, but I will talk about that later. But please treat your child right, understanding that they also have not brought it upon themselves. Make sure that you are going to educate yourself about the whole thing, educate others. Let the siblings understand what's going on with their fellow sibling, the parents, your friends around. This child is going to be a community human being when you are not there. Educate people. Let people be as knowledgeable as possible, because knowledge removes fear, knowledge removes isolation, and judgmentalism of human beings. So focus on their strengths also. These children are highly, highly blessed in many things. So focus on the good things about them. And once you bring out the good things, the bad things tend to go back to the background. Advocate for their needs. When you see your child is dyslexic, they can't read quickly, don't also say now keep them in school for 1 hour, one more hour. It is very traumatizing for a child to remain behind in school for 1 hour for things they are not in control of. When they have misbehaved and you know they are okay, that's okay. But when you know this child has struggled to read, they have never learned to read, and you are still keeping them behind, they are not being allowed to play, please advocate for their needs. Children have needs that must be given. Be patient and flexible. So adjust your expectations so that you meet you meet your child where they are. You know, sometimes you can be very impatient because this child is not being like other children, but it means that now with this one, you must try and be as flexible as possible, not necessarily spoiling the child, but being patient because they will not be like the other children that you have. Make sure that you have a lot of routines. Children who have autism and who have ADHD work very well within structures. From here, I am going here, I'm doing this next. When they have that gap of nothing to do, they give you a lot of issues. So make sure you know they wake up, they have their breakfast at this time, they play for this number of hours. Once they have those routines, then they have something to look up to because their brain is always telling them to do something else. Of course, you must set boundaries. That's what I was telling you. Discipline should remain consistent and nurturing. When you think they are out of order and they are doing things because they're just being naughty and silly as children, discipline them, okay? Discipline them and make sure that that disciplining is helping them to get nurturing. What does discipline involve? It involves you modeling good behavior. It involves correcting. It involves teaching. It involves demonstrating certain things for them. So that is about disciplining. But you focus on teaching rather than on punishment. Because if you punish them for things that are not what they caused, you will go you not go far in trying to punish them for who they are, you know. As I said, your family needs to be on board with you. You are not alone in this thing because this child is going to be somebody's brother, sister, uncle, cousin, and even your husband and wife. So you must foster resilience within your family, be as open, encourage your child and other family members to say what they feel inside, tell the family members what is going on, and let them know how, let them be able to tell others how they should treat them, as well as the family members also saying, we too need this from you. If these children do very well, celebrate their wins, acknowledge their progress, no matter how small, because some of these children are so pushing that you can't see anything. But if you can say, if they can even say thank you, try and stay as positive as you can. Whenever you are hopeful, it makes those challenges become more manageable than when you are a lot of hopeless. Okay, build a support system. That is very, very key. It's important that you build a support system around you. Don't hide your child, because when you hide your child, nobody knows and nobody wants to help. So bring the child out, okay? Treat that child well. Dress them like you dress the other children. Give them the opportunity to do things which other children do, even if they are slower than others. They can't run, they can't do this. Just make sure that they are as involved as possible. So don't give them the hand-me-down clothes and then you buy the other children the new ones. That doesn't help. If anything, the child that has a disorder should be made to look even better than others. Be the person that treats your child so well, because people will treat your child the way you treat them. If you treat your child badly, other people pick the cue from there and they treat that child even worse. So seek professional guidance, work closely with the healthcare providers, because most of these disorders can be managed through some medication. For example, the ADHD kids, can be put on a certain medication that normalizes their hyperactivity. And it's maybe half a tab a day, and it helps them stay normal and achieve all the milestones they can without a lot of trouble. So work closely with the healthcare providers. If your child is diabetic, take them to the hospital. They will be educated there. They will be trained, okay? So even therapists, for example, if you have a conduct disorder person, work with a therapist and they will help you on how to deal with the mind and the thinking process and the behavior process. There are very many specialists out there. Please seek professional guidance rather than many people run to the witch doctors, to whoever it is, or you take the child away to isolated spaces, but that doesn't help. There are many parents with children who have disorders. Connect with those other parents who have similar challenges. When you share your experience with other parents, it becomes a very easy journey to walk along. Okay? So your family and friends should share those diagnoses with them carefully, knowing who can support you and who will walk with you in this journey. Of course, there will be prayers and all that, okay? Don't live with a child with a disorder without an action plan, okay? Create a care plan, that is one, maybe medicine and all that. How far is your child going to go to school? Which schools are this going to be? Once they are adults and maybe you are not able to take care of them, what will you do? So you begin to have a proper plan for them for the next 30, 40 years. That would help. Then, of course, every day, track the progress, keep all the records, because these children are going to be members of our community and we want to see how they have walked their journey. So, and then it will help you make certain decisions about their life. When you have no records, you have nothing to say. You just say, my child has a disorder. It doesn't help anybody else who can help you, okay? Taking care of a child with a disorder is a difficult job. It is emotionally draining, financially draining, physically sometimes, because, for example, if you have an ADHD, you have to run. Sometimes it brings shame. They take you to school. They tell you what your child has done. It has a lot of things. So try and take a break so that you don't burn out being a parent. And a parent that is burnt out is angry, is violent, is not able to think out of the box. Remember how our parents used to have 20 children and the only way they could do it is beat you straight, because they have no other way of helping you be the right person if they don't beat you. Now you have 2 or 3. Take a break. Don't be a burnt out parent. Then seek counseling, because it really, really tests your emotions. It provides a safe space for you to just bring out your emotions and to build your coping strategies, because each child is different. So if you find a therapist to just come out and be vulnerable, rather than feel like you are macho, you can do everything. That is not easy, okay? Of course, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Make sure you are eating right. Make sure you are sparing a little money for yourself. Relax, okay? So that your mental well-being comes very well out. Otherwise, when you are not mentally okay, that child is going to be worse. More than anything, place your child in the hands of God. There is nothing that the Lord doesn't do. He says, let the little ones come unto me, and do not forbid them, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So place your child before God, because they are his children. He's the one that has given them to you. Thank you. I want to end by saying that almost 50% of you have children that have one mild or serious disorder. Just check your child and give them the necessary support that they need. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you very much, ma'am, for the powerful and well researched lesson that has come to us. We are very, very grateful. Before I give it to the members to give their view, their comments, their questions, I have a question. I don't know if this is me now. As you
Yes.
are talking about disorder, I've seen myself. Is it a disorder or it's normal? I have a challenge of getting one book and finish it. I buy this book, I read. When I see another book, I'll pack that one. I'll get another book, I read. Then when I find another new book, is that a disorder or what can be your comment on this is the behavior that I have? Thank you, ma'am. Before
Okay.
others will come in and ask the questions.
Okay, thank you. You cannot diagnose yourself by just one isolated issue. Usually there are a bandwagon of symptoms. So if it is just reading that you can't keep steady at, check out if there are other things that you never finish. You start with enthusiasm and you don't finish. If you find at least 4 or 5 things that are consistently showing that you don't have attention fixed on one thing, then we can begin to say, there is a disorder here. But one isolated issue, no, that is just a habit you may have formed.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I will think I have to sit and check on myself, as you have said. Dear parents, this is the time when we interact with our mentor, who is on the call right now. She is a professional psychologist. I think she's not just a person who speaks from outside, but speaks within the box and also extend it to outside the box. Dear parents, this is the best time that we can interact with her. Maybe it might be a neighbor's child, it might be our own child, it might be ourselves, where you see that here, I think I need someone who is a professional counselor. We have our mother who is right on the call. Do we have anyone with a question or a contribution toward the discussions for today? It is open, please. You can raise your electronic hand or you can use the chat box to be able to read the message if you're unable to type. Otherwise, we are ready to get your view, your comments, and your question that you have toward the topics that we have today. Thank you. Please, asking for questions, contributions, comments toward the topic. We still have some time for us to interact. We can't let our mother. Yes, I've seen a message in the chat box from Sister Chimunya. And she's saying, thank you very much, ma'am, for the topic. Though I joined late, but I have learned something. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anyone else with a question, a comment, as Sister Chumunya just posted in the chat box? Do we have any question, any comment, contribution? Okay, we have this one. Good evening. Thank
Yeah,
you so much. Yes, please.
I was saying Angelina has sent in a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like her to tell me how old the child is. Okay, she's 10 years. All right, if she's 10 years old, that makes her a candidate for an assessment for ADHD and maybe dyslexia. So it's if she's not able to read right now, it would be nice to look for a child therapist to do the assessment and see whether your child is on either dyslexic or has got some amount of attention deficit disorder. Yeah, because she's 10, she's beginning to be sensitive. Her esteem might be affected now that she's not doing well, and then she's being very busy. But we must rule out other things like family violence, whether parents are fighting, whether there is alcoholism, whether there is mistreatment from maybe the caregivers. We remove that. If we remove that, then we can do very good assessment and help her, put her on a program that will make her excel from where she is. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mom. Thank you very much. We are very grateful. Thank you. She has acknowledged the counsel and guidance that you have just given. Do we have any question, any comment from the topic that we have discussed today? We do not love to leave anyone behind. We do not want to leave any. There's a question in the chat box. Mommy, there's a question which says, how does you help a child who is always crying when corrected?
Okay. A child that is always crying when corrected sounds like a child with an anxiety issue. That's what it sounds like. I would like to know also the method of corrections that is being done. Sometimes our methods of corrections hurt the children, especially the words that are serious. So if they are crying when they are being corrected, let's look for another way of getting to understand why they have done certain mistakes. If the correction is putting them down and they are sensitive children, they will cry, okay? Or if they are being the ones blamed for the issues, which maybe other children who bullied them are doing, they will also cry. So it's very important that we find out where is the crying coming from. What is the message the child is sending you when they are crying, when they are being corrected? Crying is a communication style. Therefore, sometimes ask the child to write out what they have done, all right? Take time to correct them in silence and alone, rather than shaming them in front of other children. Find out, let them tell you what the circumstances of the mistakes are. Sometimes it's because they are either misled or other children are forcing them to do things they don't like, or other children just overpower them and point that they are the ones that are doing wrong. So there's a lot that is not being said by this child. Find out what those tears mean.
Thank you very much, Mom. Sometimes, as firstborn, we have suffered a lot. When your young sister, young brother has done something wrong, and you as a parent, you just come and hit us as firstborn. Why can't you be responsible? I think I suffered that for sometimes for my young, the second born, the third born, and the last born. Where mom would just come and shout at me, "You are a big boy. You should be responsible." But the one who has done a mistake is someone else.
Yes.
That's what maybe sometimes I used to cry over that because
Yeah.
of the way mom would come out and just talk to me as the firstborn, I should be responsible over my brother's mistakes.
Yeah. And then you cry. And because you cry,
Yes.
you get beaten more. So so it is a vicious cycle, and which really emotionally damages children. Yeah. I am thinking that someone is saying, I'm teaching a child with a special need, but sometimes he doesn't like to do anything. He's 7 years. How do I handle him? Again, when a child doesn't want to do anything, it's either a habit he has developed because he can get away without doing anything, or number two, he does not have enough motivation to do what he has been told. Or number three, he's communicating some discomfort within himself, and maybe you don't understand what he is communicating about. So if you notice that he does not want to do anything, ask him what he wants to do, even if it means walking out, or change the environment. Let us go out and walk, so that you regulate him and you ground him on what to do. So things like, let us walk around the classroom and you point out what you like. So you regulate him and you also grounding him. Grounding him means you are bringing him to the present life and making him comfortable in the space within which he is. Okay, yeah. How can you correct the emotional damage caused on a child? One is put him in the right environment, whereby he is treated better than where he was. Number two, always discuss with him as he grows, because he's at a disadvantage. It doesn't mean he gets away with some of the silly things he will do, but let him understand why he behaves the way he does and why that kind of behavior might hurt him in the future. So keep explaining the causes and the effects of what will happen to this child, however young they are. Do not make them feel like they are damaged, but tell them that, they are at a disadvantage, but they can be better than anybody. Give hope, put them in a right environment, treat them right, and you will see them thriving a lot. As they grow, arrange for therapy for them so that they can be able to express themselves. Also, allow these children that are emotionally damaged to be children. Let them dance, let them play, make them to have what other children, healthy children do. Let them interact, let them test the other side of life, and it will be much better.
Are you done, ma'am?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
Oh, there's a question in my inbox. How can you help a child who was raped and psychologically she's defeated?
Okay. Rape is sexual abuse, and it is a trauma causing event in a child. There are many therapies that go with the help of that, with helping in trauma. It might be causing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, in this child. So my biggest advice is that take them to a professional. You as a parent or a child can do so little. She needs to go through intensive trauma therapy for them to be better. They may never be the same, but they will be able to, I would say, file that bad episode in the right side of the brain so that they can live adaptively and normally with the damage that has already been caused. Most of the time when bad things happen to us, our minds want to quickly get rid of them. And it's like your boss has come and you want to hide things in files. You put one in the red, another in the yellow when it was supposed to be the other way around. That affects you throughout life. So therapy is going to help the brain refile that bad incident in the right files in the brain so that you can live normally with the bad thing that has happened to you. So as a parent, if you have a child that has been raped, please take them to the right therapist, not the other person who just says they are counselors. A child trauma therapist will help that child very much. Also, pay attention to the symptoms that are coming out of it. And the symptoms can range from lack of sleep, hallucinations in the sleep, anxiety. It might she might have sicknesses that are not explained. She might have look like it is positive, play so much, laugh around very well, just to mask what she's feeling. So observe the child and always get in touch. If they trust you, sit with them and say, tell me, how do you feel? Tell me what is happening now that you know that somebody touched you inappropriately or had sexual knowledge of you. What do you think about him? What do you think about yourself? So if the child is old enough to have those discussions. Also, engage them in things like drawing what they feel, okay? They can write poems about what they feel, just to make sure that that thing is not just kept in the brain. It has to get out. And it can get out through writing, through drawing, through activities and all that. Yeah. Okay. I would like to put my number on the chat box so that whoever wants to call, some things can be very private. So I would put my number on the chat box, and those that would want to reach me privately, please do so. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mom. There's a question in the chat box.
Yes.
I have a grandson who forgetful. He is 16 and in grade 5 because he cannot remember what he was being taught at school, even at church.
Okay. So I want, okay, the lack of memory is
This one has come from a parent who's listening to us on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say that forgetting, what teachers call forgetting, could be dyslexia. So again, have this boy assessed. He is 16 and in grade 5. That is shameful enough for him not to feel comfortable in that school. So let's see if we can get him assessed and helped as a dyslexic person to either speak onto the computer during exams, and he doesn't have to write. Yeah. And then to be given what we call it, to be given someone to assist him to read and to remember during exams and everyone. And he can do well. But given that he is in 16, he's delayed. And the parents should be able to know what else he's good at so that he can be helped to manage his life and come to a level where he can succeed. Otherwise, keeping him in primary school is counterreactive. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mom. The line for our presenter, our mother, it is on the, you can see those who would love to talk to our mother privately. The line is in the chat box. Just please see to it that you can get it and discuss with her. It is not a Zambian line for those who may think it is a Zambian line. It is not a Zambian line, but you can get it.
Yeah, it's on
and
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Huh?
Yeah, it's cheap to call on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I can't see any question in the chat box, and I can't see any hand. Do we have any hand? Any question before? Please, Mrs. Mjangombe, I've seen you have muted your mic. Mrs. Yakachoma.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Pastor, and good evening, Mrs. Matoya.
Good evening.
I just wanted to make a comment when you were saying that we need to be patient. I'm going to give an example. I have a 9-year-old daughter. It took a bit of some time for her to stop urinating.
Okay.
So what I discovered later on was that when she was 3 years, 4 years, there was a time that I had gone to school. So whenever she wanted to go to the toilet, the people that she was actually remaining with would scream at her such that by the time she reaches the toilet, the urine would have already come out. So what
Yes.
I discovered was she had that I would say some kind of trauma whereby even during the day, wanting to go to the toilet, she would not go alone. She would be screaming because in her mind, for her to go to the toilet, somebody has to scream at her. So as parents, we need to also check who's remaining with the child, what is it that they are doing to them, because that trauma will take a bit of some time for the child to come up to do the right thing at a later stage. So with patience and with time, after some years have passed, what I started doing was during the night, I would wake her up. I tried to ask, does she have this problem from the medical perspective? I was told she doesn't have, she's just okay. I took her to the hospital. Then later on, what I started doing was, when it is around 17, I'll tell her no fluids are supposed to be taken. But you would find that she would get a cup, hide it under the bed, or maybe as she passes in the house going to the bedroom, she'll pass through the dining where you're not able to see her and get a cup. So, as parents, we are supposed to have patience, and these children, as they are growing at different levels. We don't need to compare them with the other siblings.
Yes.
As I am talking, she stopped, and it was just an abrupt thing. Even if you wake her up in the night, you would find she has not waited on the bed. So the people that remain with the kids are also supposed to be cautioned to say, how do they handle a smaller child at the age of 3, 4, 5, and stuff like that? Because that trauma of being shouted at makes them to become so anxious that even when she wants to tell you to go to the toilet, she will not. But you will just discover that she has urinated. You're standing. So that's my contribution and comment towards this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Charity. Wetting the bed is a symptom of a traumatic situation in many children, especially those above 5. Many of us as parents traumatize children that wet the bed. They make them wash clothes, they shout at them, don't give them food. Those children get triple traumatized because they are doing something they are not in control of. There is no child who goes to bed wanting to make their bed wet. So it is a symptom of something. When a child is going through fear, anxiety, trauma, they will wet the bed. So whenever you see your child wetting the bed, it's not a disorder. It is a symptom of something. It can only be a disorder if the doctor says there is something wrong with the urethra or something like that. But majority of children do wet beds because they have a lot of other issues not being done. They are not performing well. They're being bullied at school. Some housekeeper is mistreating them. The parents are fighting. Someone is sick in the family. you will find a child that wets the bed in many of those things. So as you work with children, please know that when a child is wetting a bed, they are telling you that there is something that is going on that is scaring them. Yeah. Same as having nightmares. That is the thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We are very, very grateful. Unless if there is anyone with a question. Mrs. Mwewa? All right, it seems there's no any other question. Please, ma'am, you can give your closing remarks as we end our program for today.
Thank you very much for inviting me to present this on common childhood disorders. I work with many children and I notice how parents are very ignorant about disorders in children. They wait to see the children who can't speak, children who are lame, children who have got mental health challenges. But there are these small, subtle disorders that we are not even knowledgeable about. Let us educate ourselves and be able to support all children. Either you are a teacher, you are a mother, you are a grandmother, and you notice something. Every child is special and the Lord wants them for himself. Let us work towards helping our children to get to their potential despite that small disorder that is coming around them. God bless you as you parent, grandparent, and support other children in your lives.
Amen and amen. Thank you very much, ma'am. We are very, very grateful as Every Child is Special team for accepting to come and speak to us. It is really a special blessing and honor for you. With your busy schedule, yet you have to spare your time to come and speak to us. May God richly bless you and may God meet you at the person of at your needs, and may He expand your territory of influence, not only in Uganda, but the whole entire world. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your commitment. Elder Elliot, are you in a position to close for us in prayer? Elder Elliot? Right. Ma'am, are you in a position to close for us in prayer?
Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we come to your presence to thank you and praise you for who you are unto our lives. We honor you for giving us this opportunity to learn about your children. We honor you for making us parents, for making us grandparents and aspiring parents. We call upon your presence that you give us wisdom on how to handle children, especially when they come with disorders. We want to place them before you, dear Lord, because we know that you are the great healer and you can bring sanity unto their lives, oh Father in heaven. We also want to thank you for this evening and the insights that we've got. Every person here represents a family. Father, we pray that you meet them at their points of need wherever they are going. And Father, that today's teaching will augur well with all of them as they worship you and as they lead other children, oh Lord. Thank you for hearing our prayer, and we look forward to another time when you will give us to interact and help other children and other people that are parenting your children. Thank you for the organizers, and thank you for those that have spared their time to listen in. We glorify you and honor you and praise you, thanking you because we know you've heard our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Number.
She would grate cheese on. His blue eyes that pierced my soul. He was immaculately dressed. You could tell from his clothes that he was French.
Your name is Magnus, right? Excellent. Yes. Harry.
Mutinta, what are you watching? Okay. Thank you, dear parents. The woman at the well, thank you very much. May I know you? The woman at the well. Oh, she has left. Hey, Madam Roxanne, come out of her. My dear one. Omnine foi.